I'd like to welcome everyone to today's call. We've got three amazing presentations that we're going to take you through. We're going to be talking about how do we improve the value of your business. Now, before we get started, just for those who I've never met before, my name is David Guest. I run a business called Outcomes Business Group. Been doing this since 2000, I think. So we're in our 24th year. Makes me feel like the grandfather of this industry. The good news is I've spoken to thousands of business people in that time, but the main thing that I've found that is going to grow anybody's business is this ability to build self-managed teams. So in my presentation today, we'll be talking a little bit about that. But before we get into it, I just want to talk about the typical thing that I've seen with all the business owners I've spoken to. Usually when I ask people how's business, they tell me they're busy. They're flat out, they're busy. Who's guilty of being busy flat out? Can I just have a quick show of hands? Right? There's always a few, right? And what I find is when I talk to those people, they look at admin as something they must do. So it's usually done after hours. So they've got a little bit of admin and they've got bugger all marketing and sales happening. And the reason they have bugger all marketing and sales happening is that most of their business comes from word of mouth. Is anyone in the situation where most of their business comes from word of mouth or referral? Big show of hands, a couple. But the truth of the matter is when we talk about scaling that business, the reason they haven't put marketing and sales in as a priority is this. They are stuck in the middle of their business. And when we talk about scaling or growing a business, where someone's stuck in the middle of it and they're already busy, imagine what happens to that person when we say we're going to double your business over the next 12 months, right? They freak out and they go, I'm already working 70 hours a week. How can I possibly fit in 140? So the ideal scenario is this, right? Your operations, your admin, your sales and marketing should be all in equal proportion. But here's the magic secret that we're going to be talking about today is how do we get you out of the day-to-day operation in your business? So today I'm really excited about our topic. We're going to be talking about the three keys to increasing the value, to unlocking the value in your business, and especially in a tough economy. Because I know some people are hurting at the moment with the way the economy is, but believe it or not, now is one of the best times to be consolidating and looking in the mirror and cleaning up your own backyard. So we're going to be talking a fair bit about that today. There's three key elements that we're going to be touching on in unlocking the value of the business. The first element is value. What is your business worth? Now, for a lot of people on this call, they guess. They say, my business is worth X. And where does that number come from? Well, that's how much I need to retire, or that's how much I need to pay off my home loan, right? So what we're going to be working out is how do we establish the true value of your business? Because if you don't know what it's worth now, how can we improve that value? The second thing we're going to be talking about is the importance of having your financials in order, so the finance side of the business. For some people, finances are a scorecard. For other people, finances are a way of making sure I minimize tax. Today, we're going to be talking about how you optimize the finances of your business as well. And the last thing we're going to be talking about is your people strategy. So what are you doing to build your team? How can you go about building your team? And how do you get out of this crazy scenario of I can't afford to pay anyone because I'm not making enough money? So how do I then employ people? So we're going to be talking a bit about that today. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is I'd love to introduce our first speaker for today. So Daniel Calgary runs a company called Expert Business. And today's topic, he's going to be talking about your business in the eyes of an acquirer. Find out what it's really worth to a buyer and what they're willing to pay versus what you think it's worth. So I'd like to hand over to Daniel, who's going to be talking about that specific topic about how to establish the value of your business. Daniel, over to you.
Thanks, David. So good morning, everyone. My topic today is how to maximize your value and exit on your terms. So today we're not going to be going through too much sophisticated valuation methodology. It's probably a bit too early in the morning for that, but more about how an acquirer looks at your business from a practical viewpoint. So the aim is to provide a bit of perspective and a bit of awareness around that. So perhaps you could, make sure your business is set up in a way where an acquirer lands well with an acquirer. So just a bit about myself. I run a business called Expert Business. I'm the managing director there. We have 5 business brokers and M&A advisors, and we're dealing with clients on a day-to-day basis and transacting businesses. We also have Expert Valuations, which is a standalone valuations practice. So we're dealing with buyers, sellers, business owners, shareholders looking to issue equity, and I've both worked on both the buy side and the sell side of the transaction. So I can have that perspective to say, okay, we know what an acquirer will look for and the drivers of value, but we also look at from the perspective from a buyer as well. In addition to that, I'm also a certified value builder consultant and also an accredited business valuer. So what problem do we solve? So we bridge the gap between what you want to get for your business and what you're going to get. We also maximize value at exit and minimize owner retention. So one of the things that is ignored is that, yes, you might get the value of your business, but it also might come with you having to stick around for 2 or 3 years afterwards to protect the new acquirer's investment. So to make sure that you just can't go and retire and do a simple training handover for 3 months. So that's one of the things that's normally overlooked, and we aim to minimise that. So you can get the ideal is you get a cash deal, and then you basically do a training handover, and then you can go and retire. Okay, so we provide an end-to-end solution, so from valuation all the way through to transaction and everything in between. So what is the solution? The solution for business owners and advisors is to understand the value and the core drivers of value for your particular business. Okay. You also look at priming the business for sales and getting it ready for sale, not just working all the way up until the point of where you want to sell and think that you can sell it in 3 months, a bit like a residential property. It doesn't work that way. And it also engaging professionals so you can focus on running the business. So some of these things need to be done and to make it sale ready. If you're already too busy and you're running your business and you don't have any room on the plate, it's best that you continue on running your business to make sure it's heading in an upwards trajectory, but you get professionals and you engage early. Okay, not 3 to 6 months before. If you get the earlier the engagement, the more you can most likely do and prepare your business and maximize the value. So what are the obstacles? So what stops most people from doing this? The owner's just too busy, never gets around to it. Okay. Also, they've got some bad advice, or they're operating under false pretenses. There's plenty of that goes around. People are actually talking about buying an industry multiple or finding an overseas buyer, and they just think they're operating on a hope strategy that they're just going to find somebody and they're going to be right place, right time. Generally doesn't work out that way. But also avoidance, head in the sand. They know they need to do these things, but they just continue on just operating in their business on a day-to-day and keep putting things on the back burner. But also they don't have any runway left. So having no runway left, there's just no time to implement, and you actually will be leaving money on the table or maybe potentially discounting your business for sale. So the consequences are that the business doesn't sell. Okay, so some statistics are that like 30% of businesses that are put on the market actually sell. The other 70%, they either stay on the market, they basically don't sell, they shut down. So that's just the averages. If you don't prepare for sale, you're really going to be part of that 70%, unless you get really lucky. So also the businesses are sold at a discount. So if you're very much same and your business is valued at a reasonable amount, you can actually discount and create value for a potential acquirer. But that means you're leaving money on the table. But also a health or life issue, like that doesn't allow you to continue. So that happens quite regularly. Okay, you've worked all the way up and then you've had a key person get sick, or the business owner gets sick, or a family member gets sick, or divorce, or anything that doesn't allow you to continue on the business. And then you actually have not much of a timeline to operate it. You're also retaining the business post-sale. Okay, so retention post-sale has become like an earn-out type of scenario. And you have milestones that you have to reach to actually, get paid the value of your business. So these are the consequences for not preparing. So why should you start to think about this now? The reason why we want to start thinking about this now is this is the statistics in Australia. So business owners over 50 years old. So there's an over concentration. What I mean by that is you've got like Australia has 46.8% of all businesses owned by people that are over 50. Okay, and there's so many businesses on the market now, and what that tells us is there's going to be more of businesses getting sold in the next 15 years that are owned predominantly by baby boomers. Now, this is in comparison to other countries in APAC. So New Zealand is a close second, but the average is about 21%. So really, we are over concentrated, and there's going to be a real problem with the transfer of wealth between the next generation and this generation. So there will be an oversupply of businesses on the market. The writing's already on the wall. So this is an exit timer. So we just want to really dispel any misconceptions that maybe like you can just work all the way up and sell your business within 3 months, a bit like a residential property. It doesn't work that way. So for someone that's 54 years old and wants to potentially work in the business for another 3 years, they're not ready to retire. What it looks like is they work all the way up to, say, 2027. The process of selling your business is now, well, the average used to be around about 6 months, and we've seen that just to drag out to 9 months to 12 months. Okay, that's to procure a buyer, to be able to negotiate the sale, but also to be able to negotiate and settle the business. The settlements and finance and legals, they take a good 3 months. So about a year is about the average. So you're going up to about 2028. And then the average earnouts transition period is about 3 years. And that's probably overlaid with the payback time that a business, that an acquirer will be able to get on their return on investment. So they'll lock you in, and then you're exiting when you're 61. So really, you should start thinking about this when you've sort of got the time. Okay, so that's just a general timeline. Now, how to value a business. So this is it's going to be a little bit elementary, but what you've got here is you've got profit times multiple equals business value. Okay, so there's 2 levers that you can pull to increase the value of your business. Okay, so for example, if your business is making 900,000, so this is what the business is making, not what it shows on your P&L. Okay, take this as an example. If your accountant is basically minimizing your bottom line for tax minimization purposes, you need to go and undo that and work out what the business is actually making. And then we times it by a multiple. So it's normally an industry multiple. And this is a quality factor that you basically times your profit by, and then it would actually give you a value. Okay, so the profit you can obviously increase or decrease by cutting costs or increasing sales and so forth. But the multiple is where is the risk factors and the quality factors of your business. So that's where it comes down to the individual aspects of your business. And the multiple we'll talk about a bit. That's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, about the quality factors and the drivers of value. So this is an example of 900 times 2.5 is 2.25 million. Okay, if you want to increase the value of your business, even if profit dropped by about 800, but we actually improved the quality of earnings, and the business didn't operate with the business owner. Okay, what happens is you would have a multiple of say 5.1, and the value is over $4 million versus a $2.25 million valuation. Okay, and how do we move the multiple? So we'll talk about the industry multiples here. So these are just some industry examples of some industry multiples. Every particular industry has industry specific risk, and an industry rule of thumb suggests that these industries will be valued at a higher multiple. Most of the time, it's because of the revenue that comes in. So wholesale and distribution, it's probably a more regular revenue, contract revenue, and so forth, and supply, versus someone that's like in administration, which is highly interchangeable, and there's no real difference in the service being provided. So these are just industry multiples, but they also are dynamic as well. So they change on a quarterly basis, yearly basis, depending on what's happening in the industry. So these are the things that move the multiple. So these are what we call the drivers of value. So we'll just go through a few of these now. So look, financial performance. Matthew's going to go through this in a bit more detail, but your business is assessed on the financials. Okay, so if your financials are out of order, that's a really key part that an acquirer is going to assess your business on. So it makes sense to put that in order and make sure that they're not all over the place. Growth potential. Growth potential is not the potential that you think that what you haven't done and where your business could go. It really is how much free cash flow do you have to invest back into the business so you can actually execute on these growth strategies. Okay, so how much money have you got left over? And that's going to mean the growth potential is going to be realized. Now, what you've got here is you've got the next one, Switzerland structure. So Switzerland's a country that's quite independent. So the concept there is that they're independent of all other countries. They're not relying on other countries. So, for example, this has got to do with your concentration. So if you're overly concentrated on one key supplier, or you're over concentrated on one key client that all your revenue's tied up in, that's a very big risk to your business. So we'd look at uncoupling from that then key suppliers and maybe spreading your revenue or your supply over of multiple clients. The valuation feeder title, that's basically got to do with your working capital. So for example, if you have a business that is making $600,000 a year, but it has to carry $1.2 million in stock and has to have $600,000 in working capital, and perhaps it operates on a 3 times multiple of EBITDA. So that's the buyer has to write 2 checks when they come and buy the business. One is for the business, which is $1.8 million, plus $1.8 million in stock and also working capital. So that's a $3.6 million transaction, okay, the check that they've got to write for a $600,000 return. That's not really good return on investment metrics from an acquirer. So that's how an investor would look at your business. So you would have to look at, reducing your working capital and so forth. So recurring revenue is more desirable than just intermittent project revenue. So working ways to basically have recurring revenue incur in your business is very valuable. Monopoly control. So how much of a monopoly do you have in your industry? Do you differentiate, or are you same? But also customer satisfaction. Someone's going to look at, like, what do your customers think of you? The first thing they're going to do is look at your Google reviews. They're going to look at your Facebook reviews and everything as well. So also hub and spoke. So this is the really main one. So hub and spoke is how much the owner is involved in the business. Does everything run back to the owner? Are they involved with every single transaction, or does the business run without them? So generally what we'll do is we'll also overlay the timeline that a business owner has to exit, and we will work on the key drivers, not necessarily all 8 of them. They've got time, great, but generally we'll pick 1 or 2. So for example, we'll just do some pricing model innovation to try and make sure that they've got some more recurring revenue, so they're a bit more attractive to a potential buyer, or maybe even like a monopoly control, just to give them some competitive advantages that are sustainable in the future. Now, what can a business owner do now, or an advisor advise their clients on, to be able to make sure that they can prepare their business for sale? So reviewing products and services, okay, making sure that, for example, if the product or the service is provided by the principal or the business owner, can that actually be provided by another person in their organization? If not, well, then there's going to be a problem. Customer input, maybe asking their customers what they think, what services they can provide, and getting some feedback. Maybe looking at new markets, but also recurring revenue. Looking at recurring revenue and trying to get recurring revenue in their business. Also differentiating themselves, their products, their service offerings, and dependence on key suppliers and customers, trying to maybe uncouple and maybe try and spread out a little bit of that, so it's de-risked, but also optimizing cash flow as well. Optimizing cash flow meaning maybe not carrying so much stock. You might miss a couple of sales because but not tying up money where a new acquirer won't want to do that. But also maybe thinking about an ideal new owner and maybe looking at it from a strategic viewpoint. So when you go on the market, you're not putting it out to everyone and anyone. You're being a little bit more targeted, so it lands really well with that strategic acquirer. Now, this isn't like an estimation of value. For example, this is just the bell curve. Majority of businesses will sit in the middle part of the bell curve, be same. Their revenues are very similar. They've got they can be improved, but a lot of businesses sit in that same middle part of the bell curve. And what I mean by that is that if you're in that part there's two options that you have. You can either move the needle and increase value in the business, okay, and then you start to basically go into the strategic range, which you get a higher multiple, and you're in the top 10 to 15% of businesses, and that's what gets acquired by strategic buyers. Or you can actually discount your business and then look at basically creating value, again, leaving money on the table. So this is an example of what you can do to move and position your business to actually get acquired. So put your business in position, okay, to be in the strategic range, okay, so you can exit on your terms. People in the strategic range, they actually exit on their terms, no training, they do training and handover, no retention, and they get normally what they want for their business. The way we do that, the way you do it, is you've got to first assess the business, get a valuation, get a thumbnail valuation, or whatever it is that you need to do, and then you need to diagnose the problems, work out the key drivers that are going to move the needle on your business more than others, get the advice that you need, whether that be through accountant, advisor, broker, whoever can help you, and then execute on the exit as well. Now, this is obviously a mountain here. This is a little bit about selling a business. So on the way up, there's you can take the stairs, or you can basically try and climb the side of a mountain yourself. But if you were actually looking at climbing a mountain, okay, and you had to climb Mount Everest, and you knew you had to do it, well, you probably want to learn a little bit about the landscape, the quickest way up, and you know where the pitfalls are and so forth, the lay of the land. So really, what you want to do is, if you're thinking about exiting between now and the next 5 years, start becoming aware of how an acquirer looks at your business. And then what happens is we help people to be able to take the road less traveled to the top. Now, the top is where you basically sell the business, okay? That's just where you transact and you settle. Now, where most problems happen in like when you're climbing a mountain and deaths occur is on the descent, okay? That's where you got, you know, that's where all the danger is. Now, well, the way we see it is that you're retained in a business. That's like descending. Okay, so you know you're going to have to basically take orders from someone that's buying a business when you haven't been used to that. You've operated a business for 20 years. There might be milestones there that you have to hit, performance after you've given the keys over. So these are the things that you'll find that are the pitfalls. What we do is if you engage early, you get the right advice, and you prepare the business, you really get the sale at the top, and then you catch the helicopter off the top of the mountain. Okay, so you don't have to obviously go through all the pitfalls and the descent. So that's it for me today. The next steps, you know, we have what we're going to be doing for everyone on the call today is they're getting an email, a copy of the slides, but also they're going to have access to a tool that will be able to do a thumbnail valuation. So you can see it takes you 15 minutes. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can just put in your financials, 15 minutes, and you can see how you benchmark against your peers, so you can get a bit of an idea. But for people that want to discuss this with myself, you can book a call for a 30-minute discovery call, which we're happy to go through some of the even financial elements or some of the key drivers. We're happy to do that. So you just scan the barcode and be able to book a call with us for 30 minutes. But feel free to reach out on our socials here, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, but also visit our site to find out a little bit more about what we do.
Fantastic.
Thanks, David.
Daniel, you managed to squeeze that into perfect time. Look, a couple of key points before we lose Daniel. The first thing is that here's a home truth. Every business on the planet is for sale at any time. The question is how much? So there's two questions I'd like you to ask yourself is how much do you think your business is worth right now? And how much do you need what's the number that if someone gave that number to you, you just take the money, right? Because this is the true valuation of your business. And you know, people say, "Oh, I love my business. I never want to give up." But if someone offered you $1 billion, you would walk. Okay. So I want to know what that number is threshold wise. I don't think $1 billion is a realistic number, but if it's $1 million, what is that number for you? I just want you to jot this number down. And the reason I want you to jot this number down is when you speak to Daniel and get a valuation done, and the number that you think, if you're thinking I need $3 million and I'd walk, and Daniel comes along and says your business is worth 3.5, I'm going to suggest you walk, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think what you're going to find is Daniel's going to find out what the market value for your business is right now. Now, the reason this is important, even if you're not selling your business, it's the scorecard, because the more valuable your business is, right, the easier it is to run, the more scalable it is. And sometimes when we improve value of the business, people don't sell it. They actually say, actually, now that everything's working properly, it's a good business. So this valuation is not just about selling. It's about knowing what the market value of your business is right now. It's about knowing how to increase the multiple, because profit's pretty easy, right? Increasing profit, sell more, spend less. Increasing the multiple is about being strategic in what you do. So in the chat box, there is a link from Daniel, and I would suggest anyone who hasn't had an external valuation done, because he'll do what he calls a thumbnail valuation, which is literally over the call, he'll be able to give you a number, right? Based on his experience, based on the industry standards, you'll be able to understand what the value of your business is. And it's just scorecard, right? Because if it's not what you expected, if it's lower than you anticipated, the next question you'd be asking Daniel is, which levers do I need to pull to improve the value of this business? So an external person giving you that option will be ideal. Daniel's offering this for a no-charge service today. And for some people, they're terrified that if they speak to Daniel, he's going to try and sell them something. He doesn't do that. right? His job is to actually work out whether it's saleable, and if it isn't, he's going to help you get it ready for sale. And if it is, then you can ask him to take that transaction on. So what I'd like to do before we move on to our next speaker, into the chat box, what did you learn from Daniel's presentation? What were the takeaways? What were the most valuable things that you got from Daniel's presentation? So into the chat box, what was most valuable? Or if you have any questions of Daniel, you can throw them in there as well. So what's been most valuable? What have you learned from Daniel's presentation? What are the key elements that you need to be taking back and applying to your business? Into the chat box. The business that runs without me involved is more valuable. Excellent. Thanks, Ray. What else we got? Let's get a few more. Age demographics of SME owners. Yeah, it is interesting. This aging population is actually going to create a massive problem because we're all, you know, I'm one of the last of the baby boomers. So I get what's left over at the end of every sort of initiative. But there is a big bubble that's coming through the pipeline. And knowing how long the process takes, yes. Has an owner ever undervalued their business? That's a question.
Okay, I answer that. Yeah, it happens all the time. Normally it works the other way, where it's overvalued, okay, 9 times out of 10. But yeah, occasionally there is business owners that operate in their businesses and they actually don't, they underestimate the value of what they actually have. Or what it could potentially be as well. So I think you know, selling themselves short. Yeah, we've seen that that is pretty common occurrence. But it normally works the other way, where it's probably a little bit like the perception is that the business is worth more than what it actually is.
Yeah, awesome. So once again, if anyone needs to get a valuation or an independent view, Daniel's your guy. What I would like to do is I'd like to introduce our next presenter. So we've pretty much covered this whole idea of value and how do you work out what the real value of your business is. So what I'd like to take a moment to talk about now is this whole idea of finance. Now, finance is such a critical element, but so many people do not do this well, right? They don't have their finances in order. They don't use them to make strategic decisions. And one of the reasons is it's not their gig, right? So unless you're an accountant, finances are just numbers on a bit of paper. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Matthew Thompson from Virtual CFO Group. And he's going to be talking to the topic of why high integrity financials are the key to the highest possible valuation of your business. So if you'd like to give Matthew a nice warm welcome, let's get him on the call and let's see what he's got to tell us.
Okay, so this is always the fun of making sure we're getting all these things going. I still want to be able to see my chat box, which I should be able to see in a moment. Sorry, the wrong one. All right, doesn't seem meant to be able to see the chat box, but so be it. Anyway, well, I must say I commend Daniel for trying to cover that much ground in that much time. I'm far less ambitious. Instead, I just chose a very wordy headline topic to go through. So why high integrity financials are the key to the highest possible valuation? Well, what did we learn? We learned that your business is valued by multiplying your profits by your industry multiplier. So we want to know the accuracy of that profit so that we have a very good indication of what our value is going to be. A lot of the valuations will fall short of your expectations based purely on the fact that the profit that's used to value your business is probably vastly different to the profits that you're used to seeing. And the reason for this is financials often lack integrity. What does that mean? It's just a fancy way of saying due to a lack of overwatch from skilled financial people, your financials are probably just not accurate or correct in the terms of what they would need to be for the purposes of valuation and for the purposes of decision making. So that's what we're going to be exploring in today's presentation. So, okay, let's try and make sure that they're right. There we go. Okay, so we've got all our tech and I'm not used to 2 screens, not used to standing presenting, so a couple of fun adjustments that I'm making here on the fly, but it'll be okay. So this is me. I'm the commercial director of the Virtual CFO Group Australia. Our main focus is providing virtual CFO services to Australia's SMEs. As a collective team, we've got about 60 years of combined experience. You could probably tell by my youthful complexion that not all of those 60 years would naturally have come from myself. The founder of our company Colin Wright is my partner, and in my opinion, probably one of the catalysts for the fact that we even have virtual CFO services in Australia, founded the Association of Virtual CFOs. And I think the reason why we're aligned is we share a common passion for the burden of being a business owner in this country. It is a very, very difficult place to run a business. There's not a lot of support for small business owners. It can be a very, very lonely and very, very hard gig. And so we're all about helping business owners achieve their goals. We love people that are ambitious enough to back themselves. We love people that want to give a go. And of course, if you want to one day sell your business, realize your dreams, whatever it is that you get into business for, we really enjoy the rewarding journey that we have, which is to usually walk that road with you as a partner in that journey. So that's what we're all about. I'd like to start getting into the meat of my presentation today, just with a question to the group. I think we have some business owners on today's call, especially based on some of the responses that we had to Daniel's presentation. So I'd like to just get an understanding, perhaps 1-2 answers. Why did you start a business? What was the reason that you thought, you know what, getting into a business is a good idea? All right. So what sort of answers did we get in there, David? There's a couple coming through here on the chat now. Okay. Good at something.
Yeah, mute. Freedom.
Destiny in own hands.
Yeah.
That's
to be able to make a difference.
Be your own boss. Yeah, I like that. Make a
Yeah.
difference. Wanted to make a difference to the world. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that one.
Living the dream, work-life balance. Grow with my kid.
Ideas. Who wrote work-life balance? Are you getting that right? I'd love to know. I don't speak to too many business owners that are succeeding in that endeavor. Living the dream. Okay, beautiful. Yeah. So that's kind of what we find, because we speak to business owners on a daily basis. We tend to see a couple of trends. First of all, someone who breaks away is usually brilliant at something, right? So you're a very good salesperson, you're a very strong technician, but working for a company just wasn't doing it for you, for whatever reason. So you break away and you start your own business. And I think your main priority in that headspace is to validate that you made a good decision, right? So you will have skeptics. You'll have people that will say to you, I don't think it's a good idea that you start your own business. It's so risky. Don't do it. And of course, you want to prove something. You want to prove that, no, I can make it. And I did make a good decision by breaking away and starting my own business. So your focus in the beginning is usually just to make it. And you will work yourself to the bone, so to speak, to ensure that you do. And therefore, you start your business without some sort of end in mind. There's no real plan. Where do I want to be after 5 years, 10 years? And even if you do start with goals, what tends to happen is the realities of running your own business, understanding that you need to be good at understanding finances, you need to be good at sales and marketing, you need to be able to run operations, you need to be able to wrap your head around commercial and legal. It's a lot of different things that one person needs to be good at. And it's very unusual that everybody is good at everything. Okay. So that's where you get lost in the challenges of running a business. And unfortunately, small businesses don't have too many places to turn when things get tough. So you don't, even if you start with goals, those goals start to become more and more distant, or those goals start to feel more and more unattainable. And then you end up in a scenario kind of like what Daniel described. You're 58, 59 years old. You haven't thought about selling. Suddenly you go, hey, can I sell my business? And they say to you, no, because unfortunately you haven't been preparing for this day and you've got too many challenges to get a market related valuation that you want, or somebody on the open market that wants to buy your business. Okay, so the other thing that happens is, and this happens with every single business owner, is you establish some sort of owner mentality. So how is it that I perceive the world of owning or running my own business? Am I going to see it as a business that which I am a director and shareholder, or am I going to see it as mine? Okay. And all too often we see this mentality of it's my business. So the thought processes that start to creep in are a little bit dysfunctional, like it's all my money anyway, so it doesn't really matter how I treat this situation or that situation. And we see business owners fall into the small business trap. So often when business owners first present to us as prospective customers and they talk to us and they start to describe some of their problems, they fall into this sphere here, the SME trap. And we see them describing some of or a lot of these components here. So owner workload. I'm overworked. I'm very time poor. I can't cover everything. I don't know what to prioritize. Decision making tends to be quite insular. So it's one individual making decisions, as opposed to sort of like a peer review or a balanced decision making, which is obviously not great from an organizational point of view. There's no financial boundaries. So all too often, the business owner has got no real clear distinction between themselves as an individual and the finances of their business. And if we recall when we were listening to Daniel earlier, a valuer is going to look at the business and try and get the true financials as opposed to the financials that have been presented for tax and compliance purposes. A lot of the time, books are a mess, right? Because you just have a bookkeeper a lot of the time that doesn't have proper financial overwatch, and therefore will do pretty much whatever is instructed to do, and they will make errors. And if this is allowed to continue over a period of years, these errors will compound and create a lot of cumulative damage to the accuracy and the integrity of your financials. So as mentioned before, accounting is compliance focused, right? So you're using accountants for the purposes of lodging VAT, you're using accountants for the purposes of lodging income tax. You're not using it for the purposes of understanding performance current. You're not using it for the purposes of projecting and understanding performance going forward. And most importantly, we're not really using it to run our business and make decisions and to understand what we need to work on. So the business owner is often telling the bookkeeper what to do. If you're not a trained accountant, stands to reason that you might give a wrong or incorrect instruction. And all of these things tend to roll up into this idea that the owner is feeling really disorientated. So when we meet a new customer or business owner, they're often not in a good mood. They've got something that's bothering them. I can't pay bills. I need to raise capital. I need to raise investment. But when they're asking me for projections, they're asking me financials, they're asking me for questions, or they're asking me questions after I'm sending them this information, and I don't know how to answer it. I don't know who to turn to, okay? So obviously not everybody is going to have all of these situations, but I think it's good to make any business owner on this call today feel less alone. This is not exceptional. What I'm describing here, like if any of this stuff resonates with you, don't feel bad because we see it across the board. We see this as a symptom of the problems within the SME space. So I want to hone in a little bit more on messy books, because if I want to sell my business one day, it's going to really, really be problematic for me if I've got messy books. So what are we talking about when we talk about messy books? We're talking just blatantly about coding errors, right? So because there's no overwatch, accounting entries are just done incorrectly. The most common triangle of what I would call accounting integrity is the link between the owner's wage, personal expenses, and shareholder loan. So the owner will say, yeah, but I only draw a small wage, like 100 grand. But if you're running another 50 grand a year of personal expenses through the business, or you're saying, I don't draw much of a wage at all, and yet you've got a $600,000, $800,000 loan between yourself and the company that you're not really in a position to pay back, you can be in for a world of pain down the line. So integrity in your financials and understanding how all these pieces need to fit together are very, very important. So is this your fault, right? So it's a question that sometimes I get. Clients tend to come to me and they say, look, I feel a little bit embarrassed by what you're going to see with our financials and stuff like that. The answer is no. The reality is it's the role of the CFO to provide overwatch and to control your financials and to make sure that you have good finance and accounting practices. And unfortunately, it's just a case of supply and demand. University enrollments are at an all-time low. There are far fewer CFOs in the market than what is probably required. And the other problem is an SME just cannot afford to pay a CFO what bigger companies are able to offer CFOs. So even if you get one into your organization, it is very, very challenging to retain somebody of that caliber that's required to provide good finance and administrative overwatch. So the reality is you tend to then get left with bookkeepers who are not inherently bad. They're very necessary. They're very important, but they do require guidance around accounting treatment of certain transactions. Tax accountants are then also obviously an important part of the puzzle, but their focus tends to be more on compliance and tax minimization and a little bit less on management accounting. So the overarching result of this is SMEs run with a financial skills deficit. And because you don't have the skills on board, the financials tend to lack integrity. So that's what we're talking about, where we use that terminology, integrity. The books just don't present in a way that if somebody was valuing your business, they'd be able to draw the correct conclusions from the numbers that they are looking at. So why does this matter? Okay, so you may be thinking, you know what, I've been going along for 5, 10 years, and this has never been an issue for me. So why should I care? Why does this matter? I think having whatever your goals might be in your organization, having accurate numbers will always keep all options on the table. It is massively important to understand your performance, the true performance of your business. The process of an acquirer looking at your business and potentially offering to buy it is what we describe as a due diligence. So a due diligence is really looking at the numbers as they are presented, probing a little bit deeper underneath to go, well, is this really a true reflection of this business's performance? And the reason that we go through that process is to build that credibility and trust. So there's 2 scenarios. You go through the process of trying to sell your business. You present financials that have got a whole heap of issues. This really hurts your credibility. This really hurts your trust. This really harms your multiple. This really harms your valuation. So if you present really good financials, this is going to give you a major leg up in getting a transaction over the line. And that's what we do at Virtual CFO Group. So we're as a part of this process, we're involved in these types of transactions on a regular basis. But even if it's not for valuation purposes, our main value proposition is to give you the clarity and to say, look, we can run your financials through our models and we can tell you exactly how you are doing. And we can give you some low-hanging fruit to look at on where you need to improve. Okay. So now I'm speaking to 2 parts of the audience, okay? The first part of the audience is those that might potentially be interested in selling one day. I've mentioned the term due diligence to you, and I want you to think about this term in the following way, okay? There's 2 things that are very, very important. Number 1, if your business has been profitable historically, assuming your financials are good, okay? If your business has been good historically, it doesn't matter. What matters is the future prospects of your business only. Any acquirer that is buying your business is going, I'm going to spend whatever it is, $2 million. I want to know how long it's going to be for me before I recoup my investment and I start to yield a return. So the first thing you need to think about is, does the future of my business look good? Because nobody is going to buy or care about the past, okay? The second thing is, through the due diligence process, the fundamental question that the acquirer is looking to get an answer on is, what will the profitability of this business be under the ownership of somebody else? So if I'm an institutional investor, I buy companies, but I've got to insert somebody who's doing the role that you're currently doing now, and I have to pay that person $250,000 a year to do that job. Obviously, it's going to impact the profit under the future owner's world. So that is how they think about these things. And that's perhaps something that you should think about as well. If you're busy doing 5 people's jobs right now, it's going to really, really, really impact the value of your business down the line. And I think that's why David's presentation today is also really going to resonate with you. Now I'm speaking to the people on the call that are maybe thinking they might sell one day, but they're not actually that worried about it right now. They're just in a business to live the dream, enjoy their freedom, whatever the case is. Does having high integrity financials matter to you? And the answer is yes, okay? The benefits of high integrity financials are applicable to everybody because at the end of the day, understanding your true profitability and true cash flow has just got a heap of benefits that you can use on a day-to-day basis. First of all, you understand the big picture. How am I doing as an individual? How is my business doing? You understand your business risk. What do I need to work on? What are my major key client risks? What are my major challenges? Do I have, because I'm in a growth phase, do I have potential cash flow constraints around the corner? What are my challenges? If you want to raise capital and you've got good financials, it makes the process so much easier. I was on a call yesterday with a finance broker representing a finance institution, and the feedback I got was, because the quality of the numbers that you guys present are so good, this deal was so much easier to get over the line. And I cannot tell you how much we get that kind of feedback and how helpful it is if you're trying to raise capital for investment, if you're trying to raise capital for growth, if you're just trying to get to the next phase of your journey. Once you've got these investors in place, they become stakeholders, right? They become people that want information. They want reports. If you've got good financials and you deliver good reports, these stakeholders never become a thorn in your side. Some of you on this call might go, oh God, the investor's phoning. I really don't want to have to speak to them now. You don't want to be in that scenario. You want to be in that scenario where they phone you and you look forward to speak to them because you know exactly how your business is performing and you know exactly what your next quarter, 6 months, years, 2 years projections and outlook is looking like. And of course, as your thoughts around owning a business evolve, all exit options will remain on the table if you constantly maintain high integrity financials. So it's very, very important, and there will always be a stack of benefits to make sure you've got good, well-kept, neat books. So what are the takeaways from everything that I've spoken about today? I think when you start a business, set some goals, whatever they might be. And from day one, remember that it is very important to have good financials. You will get with your financials the clarity and the focus that you need to prioritize your energy, your focus as a business owner so that you can add the most value from the stack of hours that you will be putting in, day out. Having good financials, of course, will keep all options on the table. And that's our purpose as the Virtual CFO Group. You know, the concept of Virtual CFO has become so strong. And I think we are the best at it simply because we've leveraged off of cloud computing. So the additions of programs like Xero and QuickBooks, etc., mean that we're able to do unbelievably productive and fast assessments of your financials in very short periods of time. It's a simple case of give us a login, and in an hour's time, we can tell you what's wrong with your numbers. We download the trial balances, stick them into our models, and boom, we'll very, very quickly have a diagnostic of what is and isn't happening in your business. We further create our value stack by offshoring. So we've got a team of incredibly highly trained financial controllers, financial accountants based in the Philippines that can do a heap of the legwork for us so that we can offer unrivaled value, right? Because we understand the constraints from a financial point of view better than anybody else. So we can look at your business and go, you know what, realistically, this is what you can afford. And because of our technology and because of our offshoring, we're able to deliver unbelievable value at a very, very low budget. So it is not expensive to have great financials. It is not difficult to have great financials. It is very attainable to have this clarity and to have these options. And that's why I strongly encourage you to talk to us. So if you would like to just start a conversation, we'll have a look at your company for absolutely free. We'll listen to all of the problems. If you're in the small business trap, we're happy to help you get out of it. You just have to follow the link that's going to pop up into the chat box now. It takes you to our landing page on our website. You fill in the form, write something along these lines, and either myself or Colin or one of our senior CFOs will be in touch, and we'll sit down with you and speak about your business for absolutely free, obligation free. This is what we're all about. We're about listening to and solving problems for SMEs. Thank you for listening to my presentation today.
Excellent. Let's give Matthew a nice round of applause. Awesome presentation. Super exciting to understand financials. And I think, you know, often people say, well, do I really need a CFO? And it's a bit like asking, do I need a speedo in my car? The answer is only if there's a speed limit. And so in the scenario of business, it's only if you have a goal. If you actually have a target of profitability or a target of value of business, the numbers don't lie. And what Matthew's been talking about is pretty simple. Better data, better decisions. And having real-time data and making sure that it's available to you means that you know exactly what's going on within the business. And we're going to touch a little bit about that during my presentation. So I am going to encourage you to click on the link, have a book of time with Matthew. Even if you don't know if you need a CFO or not, Matthew will actually be able to have a quick assessment of what you're currently doing, and he'll give you the tick box if you're doing everything correctly. And if he thinks he can add some value, he will. So I think it's worth actually having a chat with someone who does virtual CFO, because for most SMEs, they do not have a CFO. So it's usually someone who's sort of taken on the job. As Matthew said, it's usually your bookkeeper or your tax accountant, and their interests in strategic reporting from your business is limited. So I think it's really important to get that perspective as well. And I think you've got the message from today. To maximize value of your business, there's two key elements we've talked about so far. The first one being value. How do we actually know how much it's worth? The second one is getting clarity on finance, because these two things are going to give you a clear picture of what it is and what it isn't right now. So if anyone's keen to have a chat with Daniel, the link is in the chat box, Virtual CFO Group. Please make sure that you click that link right now before we move on to our next presentation. And while we're waiting, what I'd like to do is into the chat box, what have you learned from Matthew's presentation? What is your key takeaway? What have you learned? What's resonated with you? What's exciting for you? Let's see what comes up in the chat box for Matthew's presentation. Most valuable lessons. Then we're going to move into people. We need a virtual CFO. Good lesson. Let's get a couple more into the chat box. What did you learn? What did you learn about your business? What did you learn about yourself? Or what is the action items that you need to take as a result of Matthew's presentation? The books are also part of how to quantify your business value, 100%. Yeah. I mean, they're the numbers, right? The first of the valuation things was profitability. And we're talking true profit. Matthew touched on a very interesting point. Most small businesses aren't clear on their true profitability. They confuse it. It's grey. And they do it for tax purposes, which is great. But I can't use that information to make strategic business decisions. Last one, Tina, the importance of getting an objective view of your summations. Yeah. Sometimes an outside view, because there's an old saying, a fish can't see water. And I think for most people in business, they can't see what's wrong. They're looking at the numbers, they don't see it. And someone like Matthew comes in and 3 seconds later, boom. Financial clarity, happiness in the business, excellent. Just never had the perspective as a self-employed person wanting to become a business owner. Fantastic. And that there's levers and that we're not aware of. Yeah, levers that we're not aware of is super critical. So some really good lessons there. Let's move on to our next presentation. I'm going to be talking about how to take the fast track to freedom, tongue twister, by building a self-managed team. And to me, this is one of the critical elements of building a business. You know, sometimes we think that we can do it on our own. I call that self-employment or naivety, right? Because reality is you can't run a business on your own. You at least need customers to pay for your product or service. And then when you start thinking about scale, the more you're stuck working in the business, the less valuable your business becomes. So this is what we see a lot of. I talked about it before, this term busyness. Now, busyness is not business. Busyness is thrashing around, trying to keep up with everything that's on your to-do list without actually seeing any movement. And this is why the numbers become so important. The second thing we see is no profit. And people tell me it's for tax purposes, and sometimes it is, and sometimes there's just no profit. So we really need to be clear on what profit is, because if we've got no leftover at the end of the month, there's something wrong with how we're running our business. The third element is just can't find good people. Who on this call is had this experience, can't find good people? I just need a quick show of hands, struggling to recruit. There's always a few. Here's the reality, right? They do exist. The question is, how do we get them coming to us? And you just feel like you're stuck on this treadmill and there's no way out. And I had this conversation almost daily with people saying, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next. I don't have time. I don't have money and I'm stuck. So what we're looking for is less stress. We're looking for ways to run our business that does not take so much of our energy and our time. What we're looking for is more profit. Now, to improve profit, the first thing we need to do is know what it is, measure it. What we're looking for is great team members. And what we're ultimately looking for, and it did come up when Matthew asked the question, is freedom. And, you know, work-life balance came along as one of the conversations. And I think that's an important element of how you run your business. But the reality of running your own business is you get to choose your own adventure. And for most people, they don't choose, they just hang on for dear life. Running a business for some people is a bit like a 4-year-old taking a Great Dane for a walk. The question is, who's walking who, right? Who knows what I mean by that? You know, you started your business, you had all good ideas and intentions, and you got taken. And next thing you know is, what am I doing here? I don't even know, but that's where the customers want me to be. That is not freedom. So we're going to talk a bit about how you do this. The first thing I'd like to start with, and I picked this statement up from a fellow by the name of Ryan Deese in the States. And it says, the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. And I'll just get you to read that twice. The more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. Today, it's all about how do we improve the value of your business. And my suggestion is by getting you off the tools, by getting you out of the driver's seat, by allowing your team permission to run your business. So let's talk about this idea of self-managed team, because for some people who'd like to have a self-managed team in their business, can I get a quick show of hands? Yes, I think we all do. right? The problem is we don't realize that we need a self-managed team, or we don't know how to build this thing called a self-managed team. First problem we see, hard to find. I hear this about 5 times a week. Can't find good people. They don't exist. And my suggestion is they do exist. They just don't know about you. The second problem we hear a lot of is low productivity. So here's a big problem with employment. If we look at a P&L in a business who has employees, one of the biggest expenses on the P&L is wages. Now, the problem with wages is that we have to pay them regardless of productivity. We live in a country where you pay by the hour. We don't want an hour. We want stuff done, right? So we end up with low productivity and it kills our business because there's no profit there. The third element is we get the good guys. We train them up and they're awesome and they leave. Has anyone ever had good people leave? Hate it, right? You know, and that old argument that says, what happens if I train them and they leave? Well, the alternative is you don't train them and they stay, right? So we've really got to be mindful of staff churn. Now, there's 3 solutions. The first one is, if you're finding it hard to recruit in this market, you need to build a recruitment engine. It astounds me how many people spend all their money and time on marketing for new clients, but when it comes to recruitment, they put an ad on Seek. They don't spend anywhere near as much money on employing team members as they do on finding clients, when we know team members are way more valuable than clients, the right team members. The second thing you need is to think about a performance framework. What is a performance framework? Well, I don't want people working dollars for hours. I want outcomes from my team members, outcomes over hours. So we need to build a system, right? And it's a performance framework to make sure that my team know what's expected of them, to make sure that I know what's expected of them, and to make sure I'm getting a return on my wage investment, an ROI. And it sounds weird to do this, but if you're paying wages, you need to be seeing returns and they need to be quantifiable. The last piece is staff churn. And staff churn occurs because people will outgrow your organization. Has anyone ever left a job because they couldn't express themselves? They couldn't do what they wanted to do. They outgrew the organization, right? That's one of the main reasons people leave, right? They look at your organization, they go, I've got some great ideas. And the boss says, not now, just do your job. Not now, just do your job. And as soon as someone says that to you, you get stifled and you say, okay, but you've just told me that I've hit the end of the runway, okay? So if you're getting staff churn in your organization, I'm going to suggest that your career path, your opportunities for your employees as they grow is not clear. It's not clear. So we need to think about, how do we stabilize our team? Because if I'm going to spend all that time and money investing in training my team, I want to make sure that they stay. Because the first few months is always negatively geared. I'm training them up. They're not productive. The second few months, they're neutrally geared. And eventually, once they know what they're doing, they start generating profit for my business. And if they leave at that point in time, we go back to ground zero. So there's lots of little elements that will help you do this. I'm not going to go through every single one of these today. I'm going to show you why people don't build self-managed teams. And the biggest problem with people knowing that they need a self-managed team is my favorite quote from Bruce Lee, which is, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, you've got to do something different. The definition of insanity, do the same thing, expect a different result. So let's talk about what this looks like. Self-managed teams. Nope, I'm going to do it this way. Self-managed teams, let's start from the start. When you grow a business, there's going to be 4 phases that you need to go through. 4 phases you need to go through. Now, the very first phase of growing a business is you need to get out of chaos and you've got to get into control. What Matthew talked about today is knowing your numbers, which is one element of control. And I call that track. You need to be able to track how the business is going. There's 2 other elements that will get you out of chaos and get you into control. And the first one is that you need to have a vision for your business. So you need to envision a future. You need to know where you're going, because the problem is most people don't know what they're building. I want you to imagine I go to a builder and I say, build me a house. And he goes, great. How many floors do you want? And I go, I don't know, just start. Sounds ridiculous, right? But the reality is when I talk to most people in business, they have no idea what the end game is. I want you to jot this one question down. And the question is, what will my business look like when it's finished? What will my business look like when it's finished? Now, if you know the answer to that question, you're in 1%ers. Most people have no idea. When I say finished, they go, what do you mean finished? I just started. I've got years in front of me. And I go, I get all that. But if I went to a builder and said, just start building and I'll tell you how many floors I want after you start, not only is it illegal, it's crazy. So why is it okay in business? What will my business look like when it's finished? Now, finished could be sold. Finished could be running under management. Finished could be that you actually stay there, but you've got the lifestyle choices and the freedom that you always wanted. You get to choose your own adventure, guys, but if you don't choose, it will choose you. And the middle part of this is not only do we need to envision, we need to plan. So we need planning as part of our business. Now, the reason I say you need to do chaos to control first is most people do not get out of chaos. And they start trying to build this thing called the self-managed team. And surprise, surprise, self-managed team is the third step. You cannot have a self-managed team if you're running a business in chaos. If we try to grow a business in chaos, we just grow the chaos. So who's in chaos right now in their business? There's got to be a few on this call. Right, don't grow your business if you're in chaos. Get it sorted first. Get your financials in order, work out where you're going and put a plan in play. And when you have that, you can move from chaos into the next phase, which is cash flow. Now, we all know the story. Cash is king in business. Cash is king. But I'm going to suggest it's not just about cash flow, because cash flow could be from your efforts or it could be from the business's efforts. So what I'm going to suggest you do is it's not just about cash flow, it's about having a thing called a cash flow engine. In other words, a system. And in every business, there is two systems, one for getting customers and one for delivering the service. And they both need to be functioning. If you have great client acquisition but terrible service delivery, you will have churning clients. If you have great service delivery but you're not doing your sales and marketing correctly, you will be underutilized. And for most people, when I ask the first question is, what level of utilization are you running at right now? For most people, they're running at what they think is about 80%, but in reality is about 40% of utilization. But they don't want to start marketing because they've only got capacity for 3 more clients. So they do it gently. They do word of mouth or referral. And I say, no, create a cash flow engine. In other words, I need a marketing system that gets me new clients every single week. I need a service delivery mechanism that requires 0 of my input. So I have to workflow these two things. And when I workflow these two things, then I can go into building my self-managed team. Because in self-managed team, we need to recruit, we need to delegate, and then we need to retain. So why I'm showing you this is that there's sort of 3 levels, right? And really, when we go through this, I say, look, the first level is where people get stuck. And they get in chaos and they go, I'm just too busy, I don't have money, I don't know where to go next. And I say, well, if you don't have a destination, then it doesn't matter which way we go. So you've got to get your vision right. So we've got to start with vision. Then we've got to have a plan. What are we working on next? Then we've got to use tracking. So we have financials to tell us whether we're on track or not. Then we can move into the cash flow engine, which has 2 elements. How do we get clients? How do we deliver our service? I want workflows. I want processes. I want systems in play. And the reason we do those before we build our self-managed team is so that we put the right people in the right boxes. Right people in the right boxes. And that's the purpose behind this. So where is this going to all go? Well, at the end of the day, the thing we're looking for ultimately is to leverage ourselves. And when we leverage ourselves out of the business, the valuation multiple goes up dramatically. So leverage is where the multiple comes from. Cash flow is where profitability comes from. And you can see the self-managed team is this piece in the middle here. So when people say to me, I just need to get another employee, I say, give me a job description, give me a workflow, show me what you want them to do. You don't have those elements, don't employ, because you'll pay big dollars and you'll have people sitting around saying, I clocked in and I clocked out, so therefore pay me. And you're sitting there going, but you didn't do anything. And they go, that's not my problem, that's yours. So let's be really mindful about what we're trying to do here, right? We're building a business system. And I'll also suggest you one final point on this before I switch, is that this is not a straight path. This is a sort of navigation to the top of the mountain. And we need to be going through this process. Now, everyone thinks I should have been a doctor because my drawings are so messy. Here's one I prepared earlier, just to make it a bit easier to understand this, right? So chaos to control, level 1. Level 2, cash flow engine. Level 3, work on recruiting the right people into the right jobs and making sure they're productive and they stay. Level 4, lead the business. Now, I want to show you these elements because as I talk through this, one of the issues is going to be, who's read Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth? Can I get a show of hands for those people who've read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber? Brilliant piece of work, right? If you haven't read it, you need to read it. It is about 30 years old now. but it's as valid now as it ever was. He talks about the person themselves, you. And he says there's 3 yous in your business. The first one is the technician. So the technician is the guy that does the work. And the technician is usually stuck in chaos to control or in doing the work of the business. They're the technician, they do the work, right? And the technician goes, oh my God, I just need more hours in my day and I could be more productive. But the real issue is the technician, if they don't work, they don't get paid, right? It's unleveraged. So if I don't work, I don't get paid, I'm a technician. When we graduate from technician, we move to a thing called the manager. Now, the manager's function is literally to make sure that people are doing their job. That's what managers do. Managers manage people, right? So the next step up from technician is to not just do the work yourself, but to find other people to do the work and make sure they're doing their job properly. The technician will cap out here and sometimes just get into cash flow. The manager needs to get cash flow so that he can afford to employ people, he or she. So this is the manager hat, right? Everyone making sense for everyone so far? Thumbs up if you're with me. Few people are, good. And the last piece that most people never see, and in Michael Gerber's book, he calls it the entrepreneur. I'm going to call it the leader. Because the leader's job is to lead. And the leader's job is not only to build the self-managed team, but to leverage themselves out of the business. The manager's job is to make sure the systems are working and employ the right people into those systems. And the technician's job is to get the job done and make sure that they are reporting their numbers. So we have 3 hats that we wear in business, and each one is worth different dollars per hour. And so what I suggest to people is you need to grow your skill set from being technician, if you're good at what you do, to finding other people that are good at what you do and managing those people, and you're increasing your revenue and your profitability. When you've done that, you then need to take the next step and say, I need someone to manage my team who are good at what they do so that I can think strategically about where the industry is going. Matthew talked about moving into the virtual CFO industry because there was a gap. That's leadership, right? Making decisions based on what's out there and taking a punt. Management is recruitment, management is delegation, and management is retention. So you can see there's 3 elements that we're talking to here about how you as an individual have to improve your skill set so that you can navigate through this growth. Now, the good news is this is not difficult. The good news is this is a roadmap that you can follow, and you just need to learn the skills so that you can actually build your business beyond yourself. And really, that's what today's all about, is understanding how do we improve value of business, whether you stay or go. I've had a few clients that actually we started going down this path of improving profitability and multiples by taking them out of the engine room. And I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but if you've gone to sell a house, you go to a real estate agent and they say, you know, before we sell it, you should spruce up the garden. You should give it a fresh coat of paint. You should actually finish the renovation that you started 15 years ago and you didn't finish. And for most people, when they do that, they fall back in love with the house. They go, actually, this place is pretty cool, right? This happens to business owners too. You start building a business that improves in value and it becomes easier to run, less stressful to run, more profitable. So you may choose to never sell your business because it's actually running well and it's making you profit. But if you don't improve it and do those final renovations to get it up to the stage where you're leading, you're stuck in the engine room. So let's talk about some definitions. So, Albert Einstein said it really well. The definition of insanity is do the same thing, expecting a different result. I've met people who've been in business for 30, 40 years. And sometimes I wonder whether it's 40 years experience or 1 year's experience photocopied 40 times. Who knows what I mean, right? This is the thing that every year just rolls on and it's the same as last year. And you go, this is going to be different. And sure enough, nothing changes. And it's super, super frustrating. And the reason is because they haven't got a roadmap to grow. They have a roadmap to get the next client. They have a roadmap to get the next employee, but they don't have a roadmap to exit. And I think that you need to be thinking about exiting your business, even if you don't want to, because sometimes it's not optional. Sometimes it's going to be cast upon you, right? Either you're not going to be able to work or your industry shifts so significantly that your business runs out of runway. And if you haven't thought about 3 moves ahead, like when we play chess, you're going to be hit by that. So my suggestion is that you change your view. Now, I've got a little note here. We ran a webinar, 90 minutes deep diving into what I just showed you because I'm doing a 20-minute presentation today. It's available to you. It's called the Self-Managed Team Mastery Summit. Hopefully I have a thing here. Nope. Ira's going to put it into the chat box. Ira, can you grab the link to the Self-Managed Team Mastery Summit for people? Oh, there it is. There's a QR code here. If you want to scan this, you've got free access to it. We uploaded it for a few weeks after we recorded it about a month ago. It's going to take you through how to build a self-managed team in every element that I've talked about today. Some of you don't want to watch a 90-minute webinar. You don't have time. You're too busy. You're in the busyness. For those people, what I'd like to do is talk a bit about how we can help you immediately. I want to touch on a few clients. Kate, I've been working with for about 2 years now. She runs a small web development business. And what we did with her is we quadrupled her profits. How did we do it? Really simple, right? We delegated effectively, because often the business owner is who's the best at what they do. I want to see those people who think they're the best at what they do, right? There's a few of us, right? We think we're awesome, right? Here's the problem with being the best at what you do. You can't hand clients over to the second best because they don't want to talk to the second best. They want to talk to you, right? So you need to learn how to make sure that your team is better than you, right? So this is exactly what we did with Kate. We systemized, we delegated, and she went from having 0 employees and doing everything herself. Within 2 years, she's now got 8 employees, and she still runs some of the management stuff, but mostly in leadership. Steve, who runs an online business called Machines for You, worked with him a few years back. We got a massive improvement in productivity of his team because most people's employment contracts do not have KPIs and KRAs, key performance indicators, key result areas in them. We do not define what we expect from people. They come in and they expect us to tell them what to do. So all we had to do there was just put the self-managed team development system in play and make sure people knew what they were doing. This is an interesting one. Eldon Fisher he's a hay baler. He actually makes hay when the sun shines, right? Believe it or not, he's a farmer. And he was working stupid hours. We were talking about 80 hours a week. And the reason he did is no one does it as well as I do, right? And so he was stuck, right? So all we had to do was simply delegate the technician work within the business. So we found some people that could drive trucks. We found some people that could bale hay, and we paid them. And all of a sudden, his profit went up significantly because he was the best person to go out and represent the company. So he was doing high value activities. I just want to finish up here because we work with people who want to build self-managed teams. Now, if you're under 300,000 in revenue, you're probably self-employed. You may have a dream of building a self-managed team, but you may not be able to fund it. If you're looking to scale, if you haven't been able to find the right team members, if you want to increase your team's productivity that you have right now, or if you're just feeling stuck, if you're not on a treadmill, the calibration program could be for you. One of my favorite quotes, I picked this up in 2001 from Jim Rohn. Most people don't know who he is because he passed away many years ago. One of my favorite business philosophers. And he said, never wish life were easier. Wish you were better. Because here's the problem. Life will change around us all the time. And we can complain about COVID and we complain about the economy. We complain about the government. But the reality is, the only thing you can control is you. So never wish life were easier. Wish you were better. I'd like to finish up by offering to sit down and have a chat with you, an expert call. Now, we've talked about a lot of things about building team, but I'll tell you the trigger points. Can't find good people, my team are not productive, or I keep losing good people. If any of those are affecting you in business right now, we can solve that problem for you. We can plug that hole, and we can usually do it in one session because it's just about identifying which lever to pull and pulling that one lever. So if you have any of those issues, or if you've got the aspiration to build a team, book an expert call. Right, this will be with me one-on-one, and I'll be talking through the specific needs that you have within your business. So there is a link in the chat box, I think. No, there will be in a second, if Ira can drop that in there, for those people who are interested in having a chat and understanding how we may be able to help you. Because one thing I'll tell you now, I don't work with people who I don't think I can help, right? Because I've been doing this for too long, right? I'm in a situation I only work with people I enjoy working with. So there is a prerequisite. I don't expect to fix every problem on the planet, but if I can help you, I'll tell you. And if I can't help you, I'll tell you. So if anyone's interested in having a chat, that's where you can book an expert call with me. I'm very mindful of time. We've got about 10 minutes left. So there's 2 things I'd like you to do. Anyone who's got any specific questions of the presenters, I want to get them back on stage at the moment, back on the screen. If you can drop them into the chat box. And if you don't have any questions from the presenters, I'm going to ask you to do a coachy thing, right? Which is, you've spent 90 minutes with us this morning. I do not want you leaving this presentation without at least 1 or 2 takeaways or action items. So into the chat box, what's been your top 1, 2, or 3 lessons from today? And what are the action items that you will take as a result of sitting through this 90-minute presentation? What have you learned? And what are you going to do? One thing, just into the chat box. I'd like to hear from every person if possible. If anyone's got any questions, now's your opportunity. We've got the 3 presenters on the screen. I wasn't sure if there's any questions that ran through while you guys were presenting. But is there any afterthoughts that you wanted to add while we're waiting for some people to post things into the chat?
There was one question from Peter Massaris, and it was along the lines of when business owners, most small business owners are concerned with tax minimisation.
Yeah.
And when they're looking to sell, should they look at changing their focus with the financials?
Yeah.
I guess with that one there, I mean, Matthew will be able to add to this as well. It's the same thing if you're going for a loan to a bank. Okay, if you're going to go get a loan, well, you want to obviously make sure you're including everything in your financials. Okay, the trade-off is you might be able to pay less tax, but the trade-off is that you're not going to be able to sell your business for what you want to, and also the trade-off is when you will that into a bank and you show them what your books. They're not going to look at it as favorably to loan you the money that you would like or raise capital. So I guess there's that trade-off. Yes, you could actually pay less tax, but you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. I love this question because where you're alluding, I have a lot of people who ask, I need to get funding for my business. And here's the funny part. Money is the most commoditized item on the planet. It's the most commoditized item. $1 is worth $1. It doesn't matter what you do with it, it's $1. And so it's available everywhere. The problem isn't the funding. The problem is the attraction of the offer. So if anyone's looking for funding within their business, I'm going to suggest financials are key because a bank wants to know your projections. They want to know how confident you are how confident you are to pay them back and the fact that you can. And there's lots of money out there, right? Money is everywhere. The problem is that people aren't wanting to invest in your idea because that hasn't been stacked up correctly. And I think what Daniel touched on is the valuation of your business is a reality check. It's not a joke. This is how much it's actually worth, regardless of whether you want to sell it or keep it. The value tells you how autonomous it is and how reliant it is on you. So that's a good question. There was another one here that just came in. How do you retain customers if you can't retain staff? Both similar problems. Really good question from Dan. I'm going to answer that very quickly. Customer retention and staff retention are in parallel universes, just like client acquisition and staff acquisition. Retention of clients is going to come down to who's the relationship with. Is it with the individual who works for you, or is it with the company? And my suggestion is you need to ease off on the individual relationship and accelerate the company relationship to have client retention, because staff churn is a problem, all right? And it's going to be a problem, especially for the current economy, because there's more jobs than there are employees looking for work. So in other words, anyone who's good at their job is getting poached all the time. Okay, so we need to inoculate, first of all, our good employees against that, number one, and number two, our clients. Because if a client sees an employee leave, it's a destabilization in the business. So what are you doing to make sure your customers have the relationship with the business instead of with the individual? I hope that answers that question for you, Dan. How much am I going to get off the tools? ASAP, more focused on the cash flow engine. Yeah, this sounds really weird, but the term cash flow engine is literally building 2 workflows in your business, right? One for getting clients in and one for delivering the product or service. There are others that I would suggest, and one of them will be, how do I recruit? Because I'll also tell you that recruiting the right people in your business is the secret to success, right? Now, the problem with us egomaniacs like me, who says no one does it as well as I do, if you do that for 10 years, trying to find an employee that does it better than you is nearly impossible because you've convinced yourself they don't exist. There are people out there that do better than you, and they don't want to run a business because the risk is too high. So you've got to have an open mind and say, the people who are better than me exist. How do I find them and how do I get them to come and work for me? So that's a really good statement there. Sandra said staff performance framework is key. Oh yeah. Sometimes we forget, right, that this is the perspective I want to just quickly give you on this. When you employ people in this day and age, you're paying somewhere between 70 and 100 and maybe 200,000. Let's call it 100,000 for wages. You hope that person, if they're any good, will stay with you for at least 3 to 5 years. That's $300,000 to $500,000 you're about to invest in this employee if they're good. If we were looking for an investment property, that was worth $500,000, you'd do some due diligence, wouldn't you? You go and look at lots of properties and you'd evaluate the best one. Most people don't recruit well. Unless you're a recruitment agency yourself, this is how we do it. We put an ad up, we get a handful of responses, mostly offshore automated. Out of the ones that look any good, there's probably 3. We pick the best of potentially a bad bunch. My suggestion is that's a bad strategy, right? I would rather have 100 applicants that are good and I pick the best out of 100 rather than the best out of the 3 that are actually in Australia, if that's what you're looking for. So the idea is to take on recruitment and retention of your team with more diligence than you take on recruitment and retention of clients. But you can't do that until you have your cash flow engine. So we've got to go through these stages. Marina, measure my correct valuation and work on increasing factors and build recruitment engine. Excellent. Guys, there's some really good wins here, some really good lessons. Like I said, when we run these presentations, right, we want to educate you as business owners because sometimes we get so stuck in busyness that we go, yeah, we just need more clients. We just need more clients. Today is about improving the value of your business. This is strategic. Okay, this is working on, not in. It's about deciding which path should I go down. It's about deciding how much do I want to sell it for. It's about deciding I need accurate data so I can make better decisions. So if you do anything out of today, I would suggest that you hook up with each of the experts and you say, but my business is different. Let me explain to you where I'm at with my business. And they'll be able to give you an outside view on what they think you can and can't do. So I hope you got some great value from today. I'd also like to acknowledge the 2 presenters. They've done an awesome job. You know, we really do need to talk about numbers. And for some people, it just goes over their head. But reality is, if you don't know the numbers, it's like imagine you get a speeding ticket and you say to the police officer, I don't have a Speedo. He's going to go, why is that my problem? Right? Having the numbers in front of you in your business is the Speedo for your business. The speed limit is your target. And if you don't have one, it's going to be what the market defines. So really, let's start thinking about how do we set this goal of value of business? How do we move towards it? And how do we use the telemetry, the financials, to make sure that we're on track and we know what strategy to work on next? And if that's all you take out of today is that you speak to these guys to get a reality check on the valuation of your business and the financials, I think we've made massive inroads into making you a leader in your business as opposed to just the technician. Guys, we've gone through a lot today. We've got 3 minutes left to the hour. Really appreciate your attention for this amount of time. We've gone through a lot of things. If you have any specific questions of the presenters, you can reach out to them personally. We'll send out contact details after today's presentation. Once again, I'd like to thank Daniel and also thank Matthew for an awesome presentation. Let's give him a nice small round of applause.
Thanks, David, for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
And we'll get everyone to
thanks, David. Unmute your mics and thank the presenters verbally. Let's see if we can get this happening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Very
you so
helpful.
much. You guys
Thanks,
are
guys.
amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for their time as well.
Thanks,
well
guys.
done.
Appreciate the time.
Guys, let's wrap this up here. There will be a recording up for a few weeks after this. So anyone who missed the first section or wants to come and revisit a few points, it'll be there. Otherwise, thanks so much for your time this morning, and I'm hoping that you have a very productive day. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you.